New Superman issue 8, Gene Lun Yang on writing and Billy Tan on art. And this was the second half of the two-parter. We started last issue with him trying to like gain favour of this sensei, basically. It's a sensei in China. Yeah. And he's wanting him to train him. So he basically he says, all right, if you can, he blindfolds him and says, all right, if you can hit me once before I hit you eight times, I'll train you. You've proved you're worthy to me. And basically he gets hit 7 times really easily. But then Keenan rushes off because he hears that there's someone in trouble outside because his super hearing kicks in.
Well, because he tells him, I Ching tells him, like, you need to stop and listen before, and then it kicks in.
Oh, true, yeah. It does that Three Ninjas thing where it's like you have to listen to everything around you.
Yeah. And what gets me is it's a very Chinese take on Superman where, he has all these powers, but as of right now, it seems like he can only use one at a time. Yeah. So he has to focus all of his stuff to his hearing, and then when it goes to that way, he can't not hear everything.
Yeah, it's kind of that typical thing where whenever Superman first gets his super hearing, it's like hard to control, and he's hearing everything. And basically, he hears stuff outside, so he rushes out to save people around him. Someone's about to get hit by a truck, he saves them, he saves other people. Mm-hmm. And when he tracks him down later, he explains the whole why is your symbol an octagon, and he says, oh, it's these mystical symbols, and it means this, and that's why your S is in there. So because he explains that it means multiple things. Yeah, it means hope on Krypton, it means S on Earth, and in these symbols it means your destiny or whatever. And he
set me on a Wikipedia journey into what each of these symbols mean. And I gotta give Yang credit for working all this in because he's creating brand new Superman mythos.
Yeah.
In 2017.
And there's that really nice moment at the end of this scene where he holds up his hand and says, and Keenan's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm letting you get a hit in before I land my 8th." It's like he's deciding that he wants to train him because he's seen the good in him, and it's just a really cool moment. And on the other side of things, in terms of the main plots, obviously we had Baxi, and Connor's not read this, clearly.
Well, no, he gave us
I dropped this.
I saw you did. So you did. All right.
In my defense.
Yeah. Remember, I was going to drop until the end of that issue.
I was going
the end of the first arc. Yeah, no.
No, this one I didn't plan to read.
Fair enough. You're abstained from this one. Anyway.
So, I had some problem with the Baishi story coming up. But I'll let you finish saying what's going on.
Oh yeah, so Baxi's fighting this other guy who wants to be the Batman, and they're doing this training simulation, but someone's rigging it down below, and Delane goes down to solve it, and she sees who it is, and she's like, "Oh my god, it's you!" I mean, we don't get to see who it is until later, and it turns out that it's Baxi's sister, who wins the fight, by the way. He ends up winning. When all things are fair. He actually,
because
he saves one of his teachers, because one of the teachers steps in, and the other kid's like a nut job who grabs him and is like, "I'm going to kill him if you don't give me the kill." He's like,
he's too unstable to be Batman of China. That's why he's not. And Baishi does what he does best and talks the dude down, saves the teacher. But
you say he talks him down. He hands him his cowl, and his cowl emits gas that knocks him out.
But he gets him to that point where he can hand him the cowl.
Yeah.
That's what I've liked about this character from the beginning is he's the complete opposite of Keenan, where Keenan's all go and no, well, it's usually all go and no show, but that's not Keenan. Well, he's both. He's all go and all show.
It ties into the whole idea, even what we talked about in Detective, that Batman always prepares. Like that's basically what Baxi says to the other guys. Like, it's not about being the best fighter in the room, it's that I always think things through.
Fair. Yeah.
So. Exactly.
And I guess my problem with his sister being, I get her point is like, well, now that you're Batman, we can't be together, and you're all I have in the world, and I miss you. But I just feel her creating a supervillain persona of the alpaca and tagging up the school and stuff. It was a little bit out of left field.
Well, it was kind of tying in. It felt kind of like it was meant to go along with what Keenan's dad was, and that he was one of these freedom fighters. He wants democracy in China, and she wants this too, and it's going to give Baxi his own kind of plot in that way where he's got his sister, and it's really sad at the end because it's Lunar New Year that they're celebrating, and at the end of this you see like them having family. Delane's come with his family to have dinner, and his sister's not there because his sister's presumably locked up for crimes at that particular moment, and it's kind of really sad. And at the very least, I like these 3 core characters a lot, and they're really building
too.
up the mythology around them, and I think that's really, really cool. It feels like it's just, I feel like someday, as long as it doesn't get cancelled, I feel like someday there's going to be a nice couple of omnibuses of this, and it's just going to be one big story that's going to read really well.
It's almost a very
selling
like
reasonably well. Like,
Yeah.
so it shouldn't get cancelled anytime soon.
Yeah,
I've heard people say this is their favorite Superman book, even over the main title. And I mean, I can see how they would justify that. For me, it's not, but I get that. It's a very image take on Superman to where it's kind of set in its own thing.
Yeah.
You know, it could almost be its own, Elseworlds if it wanted to
But
be.
at the same time, it doesn't shun away from
No,
the actual Superman
all.
stuff, which is really cool. It's like incorporating it, but it's saying, no, there can be more interpretations and there can be more stuff added to it. And
Yep.
so it's really cool.
Because every time this is another one where it's just like, well, maybe if I don't have time, but I read the issue, I was like, man, that was fantastic.
Yeah,
Has-
But that's how I felt with a lot of Yang's Superman run too, because you had like the Hero Fight Club that was actually like pro wrestling, and they were all gods, and they had to use that so they could remain gods and word fame and all that stuff.
I had issues with what the whole New 52 Superman stuff was doing when he had a hold of it, but New Superman's really impressing me. And we need to talk about the last scene, the last couple of pages, because oh boy. So again, tying into stuff from before Rebirth started, this actually referenced directly the last days of Superman, which remember the Chinese Superman that showed up in that arc and was like dangerous.
It was all crazy.
Yeah. Which we're now calling Superman Zero, which I like. We've got a name for him. That's cool. It's easy to remember. Superman Zero. And so someone breaks him out of the crab prison that they've got underwater that they've established before, and we see this person's talking to them. He's like, I'm breaking you out because we have to do stuff and be evil, and no superheroes would exist if it wasn't for me. I am the beginning of all of it. And when you turn to the last page, it turns out he's right. He is the beginning of all of it because he's from the front cover of Detective Comics issue 1, which even predates Superman's existence. And the character's called Fu On Yu, and he's got the
I didn't know that was his name.
and he's got the long mustache.
Fu Manchu.
Honestly, it would be the most racist thing ever, which is probably why they've not used them in a long time. But because we've got a Chinese writer writing the book, and presumably he's got plans for him that he's going to subvert and he's going to do things with, you feel kind of okay. It's like, oh fine, I assume he's got something he wants to do with them. If this was anyone else, if this was any other writer that wasn't Chinese, I'd be like, oh, this is going a bad place. But I'll trust in Yang. So.
Yep. Well, the fact that he gets to bring this character back, and make him relevant in a time from comics where, they weren't as careful with how they represented certain cultures. And
So presumably he wants to take it and turn it on its head and do his own thing with it and point out the absurdity and possibly even be satirical with it. So
Yeah, makes sense. I'll be references how he was forgotten.
yeah, I didn't actually know his name either, Matt. I looked it up because I thought, we're going to talk about it. I wanted to have his name, and when I seen his name, I did kind of like, oh Jesus Christ, this was racist as hell when they wrote this. Which, by the way, he was created by the same 2 creators of Superman. Just if you were curious.
Siegel and
That's kind of
Schuster.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Not
interesting
to stick
popping
up
in
for
this,
that
though.
type of insensitivity, but it was a completely different era.
Oh, of course it was. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
It's something you just have to go with, isn't it? It's like, well,
Yep.
we can't change that past.
No,
That's just how
no.
it was now, and we have to deal with that.
But Yang taking it and maybe doing his own thing with it, and obviously going with it with a more modern sensibility, I'm sure will be an interesting avenue. I will say this though, I was not expecting it when I turned the page.
Oh no, me
Would
neither.
anyone ever expect that?
No, this is. Do you know how comics they like to do this thing with a short last page or someone's returned? This is as far back as you could possibly go in the DC universe because it's Detective Comics issue goddamn one.
Yeah.
We're DC, which people, if you forget, DC is Detective Comics.
Yeah.
That's where they got it from.
You can't go
So
further back
technically,
than
it's
this.
Detective Comics.
Yes, but people just go with it because it sounds good.